We're all together again, friends, for another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. My notes say that Sierra is 32 years old. She's the mom of a type 1. Her daughter Harper had a Glucagon incident. We're going to talk about that at some point. Sierra's dad had type 1 as well, but she didn't know a lot about it. This is a good one. You're going to like this. Oh, wow. And look at this. Sierra has a really kind of cool job. Oh, you'll find out about that in a second. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. When you place your first order for AG1 with my link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a free year's supply of vitamin D. Drink ag1.com/juicebox. Are you an adult living with type 1 or the caregiver of someone who is and a U.S. resident? If you are, I'd love it if you would go to t1dexchange.org/juicebox and take the survey. When you complete that survey, your answers are used to move type 1 diabetes research of all kinds. So if you'd like to help with type 1 research, but don't have time to go to a doctor or an investigation, and you want to do something right there from your sofa, this is the way. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. It should not take you more than about 10 minutes. I'm having an on-body vibe alert. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Eversense 365, the only 1-year wear CGM. That's 1 insertion and 1 CGM a year. 1 CGM, 1 year. Not every 10 or 14 days. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your supplies the same way we do from US Med. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
My name is Sierra. I'm the mother of a type 1 diabetic. Her name is Harper, and she was diagnosed just after her 2nd birthday.
How old is Harper now?
She's 5 now.
Oh, wow. So 3 years so far.
Yes. Yep. She was diagnosed on New Year's Eve in 2020. So middle of COVID.
Sierra, your connection is a little janky all of a sudden. I wonder why that is. You're dipping in and out while you're talking.
I am on a mountain, so that might have something to do with it.
Oh, well, that we can make allowances for. Also, Siri, just thought I said Siri when I said Sierra, so I guess I'm going to have to be careful about that. Does that happen in your house a lot?
I don't actually have Siri, so I don't have a problem. But if I did, I'm sure I would.
Yeah, okay. So how high up on that mountain are you?
Well, I can just tell you, I am in Crater Lake National Park right now.
Oh. This is not where you live then. You're vacationing?
Oh, no, I work here, but I don't live here and work here like many people do. So I commute in and commute out every day.
Like on a jet plane, or how do you get in and out?
Believe me, if there was like a transportation device that I could just like step into and appear here, I would totally use it. I actually have a 2.5-hour commute each morning that I spend a lot of time listening to you.
But you make $8 million a year, so it's all worthwhile, right?
I totally wish.
I'm trying to understand why you have a 5-hour daily commute that you're okay with.
So I started my career with the association that I work with at the other park that we work out of, which is the Oregon Caves National Monument. Mm-hmm. And I actually live in the town just outside of Oregon Caves. And when my boss retired, I took her role, and I've only been in this position for a year now. Moving just hasn't made sense, and I can do a lot of work remotely. So I don't have to come over here every day. It just kind of depends on the timing of the season and what's happening as far as operational changes and seasonal changes.
All you had to say was, I'm a hippie. I would have understood if that's what that's.
It totally crossed my mind to introduce myself as a hippie because I kind of live in a hippie community.
You could have just said, Scott, I'm a hippie. I'm helping the world, man. And I would have been like, oh, okay. Yeah.
That's right. Keep it green.
My car runs on biodiesel that I make out of old vegetables.
I'm not that much of a hippie.
Well, then, then stolen valor then, Sierra. You have to try harder.
Darn it. I'll work on it.
Okay, so we'll all remember that you're at the top of the world while you're talking, and we'll be accepting. Okay.
Surrounded by snow and beautiful views.
Well, it's funny how this happens to me all the time. Like, things happen in bunches, and it's not on purpose. But yesterday I recorded with somebody from Australia, and we had to do kind of a similar talk in the beginning for people listening. Like, look, there's going to be some glitches in the audio here, but she lives on Mars, and there's like a tiny string that goes under the ocean, and that's what she's talking on. So let's all be understanding.
My mind was blown when I learned that the continents were connected by wires in the ocean. That's just so crazy to me still.
I assume that most people thought I made that up and then heard you say it too and was like, oh my God, is he right about that?
Oh, it's a real thing, people.
Yeah. There's cabling under the water. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who thought that was a good idea?
And then I like when people are in their house and they're like, I don't know if I know how to change out this screen door. I'm like, I bet you could figure it out. Anyway, so Harper was diagnosed about 3 years ago. Normally we'll tell a bunch of stories and et cetera and ask you stuff, but you have like a specific story. So I like to get to them a little faster when that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let me just learn a little bit before we jump in. So 2 years old, any other type 1 in the family? Any reason for you to think there would be a diagnosis?
So my dad had so many health issues, but he passed away when I was really young. So I don't have a full list of what he had, but I do remember him carrying insulin and needing injections. And he would always tell us if he passed out or became unresponsive or anything along those lines, that we just needed to get him sugar as soon as possible. We thankfully...
Are you telling me your dad had type 1 diabetes, but you never spoke about it that way?
I don't know exactly. I asked my grandmother after Harper was diagnosed, and she shook her head at me, and she was in her 90s and wasn't as coherent as she had been. So she told me no, and his siblings tell me that he didn't have type 1, but we still have his case that he carried his syringes and vials in.
Yeah.
So,
hold on. How old are you now?
I am 32.
You're 32. Your dad passed how long ago?
When I was 8.
He definitely had type 1 diabetes.
What I think too, but he had several surgeries and he was in a really crazy car accident while he was working for road construction in California. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if it was typical onset type 1 or if he had organ damage that caused type 1.
Sir, before we move forward, I have to ask you a question about your voice. You sound like the third female character on a sitcom who's the sexy but too cute to be sexy friend with freckles. The way your voice breaks and cracks, does it always do that? Are you doing it on purpose? It does do that. Okay.
It's me.
It's fine. There's no problem with it. You literally, I feel like you're 5'3", freckles, dark hair, bob haircut, and you're standing behind the other two actors and you're just waiting to deliver your line where everybody's like, oh my God, she's adorable.
Are you looking at my Facebook page right now? Because you literally, I'm 5'2"3/4, but
do you have dark hair?
Nailed it. I do, and it's a bob cut.
Oh, Sierra, we talked about this before we started recording, but I swear to you, I don't know what you look like. Tell people what we were talking about before we started recording.
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
About oh, Jesus, Sierra, you ruined that.
God, how you can read people. I'm so sorry. I'm nervous.
That's fine. I haven't made you not nervous yet in 7 minutes. I'm slipping. Okay. So, we were talking prior about my wife, who does not say a ton of kind things to me, not because she's mean, but because we've been married for a really long time and she's probably out of stuff to say.
I recall the conversation now. Yes, you are a people reader. And the fact that you can pick out my description is a little creepy.
I am so proud of myself right now. There's a part of me that wants to say, if you take insulin or sulfonylureas, you are at risk for your blood sugar going too low. You need a safety net when it matters most. Be ready with Gvoke HypoPen. My daughter carries Gvoke HypoPen everywhere she goes because it's a ready-to-use rescue pen for treating very low blood sugar in people with diabetes ages 2 and above that I trust. Low blood sugar emergencies can happen unexpectedly, and they demand quick action. Luckily, Gvoke HypoPen can be administered in 2 simple steps, even by yourself in certain situations. Show those around you where you store Gvoke HypoPen and how to use it. They need to know how to use Gvoke HypoPen before an emergency situation happens. Learn more about why Gvoke HypoPen is in Arden's Diabetes Toolkit at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used if you have a tumor in the gland on the top of your kidneys called a pheochromocytoma, or if you have a tumor in your pancreas called an insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk for safety information. Hey, Sierra was coming on to tell a glucagon story, but you don't get it now because this is a perfect episode and just end it right here, but we'll move forward. But anyway, I swear to you, I don't know what you look like. I don't think I've ever seen you. If I did, I didn't know it. And you just feel like that character, like the girl that came into the Facts of Life a few years into the run. That's who I picture. Oh my God, that is who I'm picturing. Hold on a second.
I'm not familiar with
that. Of course not. You're young. You don't know the Facts of Life. Hold on. Facts of Life. Freckles. Is that going to get me there? If that gets me there, I'm going to be really amazed. No, that just gave me a lot of people with freckles. Hold on. Character with dark hair and freckles. Come on, Scott. Do it. Do it. Oh, she's not here. Oh, man, that pisses me off. Now I look like an ass. You know what I'm saying? Because I was so close. Hold on a second. I'm going to go one more time. Cast.
Okay.
And then we can move on. Do you know George Clooney was in the Facts of Life?
I am so out of touch with TV.
Oh, it's television. From the 80s.
I'm a hippie, remember?
Oh, you didn't have a TV. You guys were just like, your parents were just like smoking outside and you were like, that whole thing was happening. Yeah, hold on a second.
Maybe sometimes. My dad had long hair and braids.
Your dad? Wait, your white father had braids?
Yeah. and he was raised super Mormon. So like a clean cut, shaven suit and tie. He got away from that as fast as he could.
Okay. I'm never going to think of this actress's name, but there's literally I have a girl in my head that I think you look like. All right. I'll figure this out maybe and put it at the end, but I'm not going to bore people right now. People are like, hey, jackass, her daughter had a seizure and they needed glucagon. Can you get to it, please? And I'm like, yeah. Anyway. Okay. So it sounds like there's diabetes in your background. Is there any other autoimmune in your life? My
siblings have thyroid issues, and I don't know of any others. My aunts, there's type 2 and thyroid that I know of for sure.
Are you sure you don't have a thyroid issue?
So funny you ask that.
No, it's not funny. Hoarseness is a symptom of hypothyroidism.
Oh, well, okay. So I had some labs done less than a year ago, and my thyroid was over 3, and I was put on I don't remember the name of it, but it was a thyroid medication. And then it went up over 4. And then I cut out Monster energy drinks from my day-to-day life and started drinking a lot more water. And my thyroid levels came down. And my doctor refused to refill my thyroid medication. And then I was assigned a new primary, and she ran new labs. And now I am in normal ranges.
What's the range?
I know it's under 2.
Good.
Because I listened to you.
Thank you. Reduced thyroid hormone levels can lead to myxedema, causing the vocal cords to swell, which affects their vibration and sound production.
Interesting. This has been my whole life, though. I mean, that doesn't mean that hasn't been a thing my whole life. But
the doctor who believes that stopping drinking Monster energy drinks makes hypothyroidism go away, did he palpate? I'm assuming it was a guy because it doesn't feel like a thing a woman would say. Did he palpate the thyroid? Did he feel for lumps, goiters, nodules?
Nobody's ever touched it except for at my annual exam. And that was back in November.
Did they say they felt nodules or anything on your thyroid?
Oh,
I would maybe, if I had insurance, if I was a person like you who had insurance, I might say, hey, does my hoarseness have anything to do with my thyroid? Could I get a scan? And I might ask to get my thyroid scanned.
I actually have an appointment coming up, so I will ask for that because I never thought of it.
Thank you.
relating to sound. Thank you.
Yeah, no. I was thanking myself. I don't know what just happened there. I was literally giving myself credit without saying why.
That's okay. You can have it.
I have to be honest with you. That just popped into my head. I was like, wait, the horse voice. Like, I didn't know it first. And our conversation brought it up to the top of my mind. So anyway, good luck with all that. I would definitely test your daughter, though.
Yes. Yeah. She gets her lab. Well, we had her labs called in, but we have to drive an hour and a half to get them done. So we've been.
Yeah. Well, everything's far. You guys should get a helicopter. Although I think that just killed the president of Iran. And if he can't get a decent helicopter, I'm not sure how you're going to. So, all right. So the kid gets diabetes. How do we figure that out?
Typical onset. She was drinking a lot of water, peeing a lot, peeing so much. I actually posted on a local moms group asking about like recommendations to reduce the heavy wetting. And like we saw how much water she was intaking. So how much coming out made sense. But we just didn't understand like what was going on. And I was the kind of person that would Google symptoms and learn that I was dying and, dread stuff to figure out that it really wasn't actually happening. And I don't know why, but for some reason, I just didn't Google her symptoms. Maybe because COVID was in its throes and everything was going to kill you. Mm-hmm. So she started out with the heavy wetting. She had been recently potty trained, like consistently every night. She did not wet the bed. And then she started like overflowing. So we put diapers back on her at night. The moms group that I posted on suggested that I put in diaper liners that are basically like maxi pads that you stick in, and it adds additional absorption to the diaper. Mm-hmm. And she was filling those up and her diaper and still overflowing.
Gosh, I don't think anybody's ever said the word maxi pads on the podcast. So I think you might have just done a first for us. Thank you.
I just did a fist pump because, yes, have to get a first.
Because that's kind of like an old word, isn't it?
It is kind of, yeah. Yep. But I want you to imagine like the biggest ones you can think of because that's what they were like.
Okay.
She started getting really tired and she was sleeping through the night, which I was stoked about. I was like bragging to my sister how my 2-year-old was sleeping through the night and I was getting all of this awesome sleep. And I called her doctor. I listed the symptoms that she was experiencing. I asked them what they thought, and they hesitant to have her come in because of COVID. So they told me that if she developed a fever or started vomiting, then they would want to see her, but for now to just hold off and see where it goes. We kept an eye on her and we were doing home projects, DIY, and just trying to stay busy. And she, day before New Year's Eve, at really late in the evening. So I was like, okay, I'm going to call her doctor first thing in the morning. And then the next morning, she started the Kussmaul breathing. She was panting and very lethargic. She barely woke up. She would wake up and drink water and go right back to sleep. Mm-hmm. And so I called her doctor and they were like, you don't call unless something is wrong. So why don't you just come in this afternoon? So we got ready, packed bags, hit the road, got there. Like as soon as we walked into her doctor's office, her pediatrician was like, we need to get a urine sample, which was really simple because of how often she was peeing. So they brought a little potty training toilet into the room and we sat her down and
she was like, no problem. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. She pulled that sucker up and they dipped it. And then they came back in and told us that she either had pneumonia or type 1 diabetes, that we needed to head to the nearest emergency room without stopping. We were not to get lunch. We were not to do anything, just go. And so we kind of discussed which emergency room made the most sense. And they told us to go to the one that had the pediatrician unit. They told us that they were going to call ahead and that would actually put us closer to the airport because they suggested that we would be getting flown to Portland, Oregon, to OHSU. And so we hit the road and we drove the next 45 minutes to the hospital. And I just actually learned this last month that we went to the wrong emergency room. We went to the one that was actually closer to the airport, but not the one that had the pediatrician unit. So we went inside, we stood in line to register, and we were like, you guys are expecting us. We're pretty sure our daughter has diabetes. And they were like, just kind of shrugged and
They're like,
really
no, we don't know who you are, lady.
Yeah. And it all makes sense now. But for the past 3 years, I was like, why did they treat us like that? So we sat in the waiting room for what felt like forever. They finally called us back, and it took them forever to get IVs put in because she was so dehydrated and so small.
And little too, yeah.
They finally got some labs drawn, and they confirmed. And her blood sugar was like 458. It really, like, I hear these diabetes diagnosis stories where it's like off the charts. And I think it's because she was probably still in honeymoon at the time.
Yeah, going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part of the story is when you're telling all your friends, like, oh, my kid sleeps. I'm getting so much sleep. And she's like laying there in DKA probably. Like,
oh
just,
my gosh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, looking at pictures from that time, I'm like, her eyes are so sunken and she's so like, she looks sick. How did we miss it? But when it's in front of you, you just don't see it. They told us that we would be flown to Portland. They didn't tell us where, they just said Portland. They said that we were waiting for one of 2 pediatric jets that service Oregon and Idaho.
Jeez.
And the one that was available was about 4 hours away.
Mm.
And so they told me that I would be able to fly with her. And so I looked at my partner, Cliff, and I was like, go home, pack an overnight bag, get what we need, and then come back. And then you'll drive up and I'll fly with her. And so he runs out and he leaves. And it's just, I'm like laying on a gurney with Harper on top of me. And they're trying to get IVs put in, and they're trying to do all of these tests and things. And it's just not working for them.
Yeah.
He gets back, and like right before he walks in the door, I'm not sure what their Mercy Flight staff. I'm not sure what their official titles are.
They're life flight employees, but I don't know what exactly you were talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the EMTs, I guess, that go on the plane, they were at the hospital. They were strapping Harper onto a gurney to get a ride in the ambulance over to the jet. And that's when they told me that I couldn't ride with her because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff walks in, we tell her goodbye, and then we run out because it's a 4-hour drive. Excuse me, sorry.
You're fine.
It's a 4-hour drive from Medford to Portland. Normal driving speeds. But when you're racing a jet, you don't drive normal driving speed.
Is that how it felt? You were like, I got to get there before the jet? Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we hadn't eaten anything all that whole day. So we like ran through a drive-through really quick, and then we hit the road. And staff on the jet were really great. They let us know as soon as they landed. They kept into contact with us from every step that they took. Because I think it was like an hour and a half flight from where they were to where they took her. And they let us know when they transferred her over to the hospital. And then the hospital staff started calling us, and they were like, where are you right now? And I would like tell them the exit number or the milepost.
Jeez.
And they're like, you need to slow down.
Like, no, I'm making great time.
Yeah. And we're like, no. They're like, well, like, you need to make it here in one piece and alive. And we're like, we know, but we're also going to make it there as fast as we can. So we made it there 2 days in the NICU. And then we spent another 2.5 days in the ICU. And her A1C was over 15. And
geez, was it really? Today's episode is sponsored by a long-term CGM that's going to help you to stay on top of your glucose readings, the Eversense 365. I'm talking, of course, about the world's first and only CGM that lasts for 1 year. 1 year, one CGM. Are you tired of those other CGMs? The ones that give you all those problems that you didn't expect? Knocking them off, false alerts, not lasting as long as they're supposed to? If you're tired of those constant frustrations, use my link, eversensecgm.com/juicebox to learn more about the Eversense 365. Some of you may be able to experience the Eversense 365 for as low as $199 for a full year. At my link, you'll find those details and can learn about eligibility. eversensecgm.com/juicebox. Check it out. You've probably heard me talk about US Med and how simple it is to reorder with US Med using their email system. But did you know that if you don't see the email and you're set up for this, you have to set it up. They don't just randomly call you, but I'm set up to be called if I don't respond to the email because I don't trust myself 100%. So one time I didn't respond to the email and the phone rings at the house. It's like, ring, you know how it works. And I picked it up. I was like, hello. And it was just the recording. It was like, US Med. Doesn't actually sound like that, but you know what I'm saying. It said, hey, I don't remember exactly what it says, but it's basically like, hey, your order's ready. You want us to send it? Push this button if you want us to send it. Or if you'd like to wait, I think it lets you put it off like a couple of weeks or push this button for that. That's pretty much it. I pushed the button to send it. And a few days later, box right at my door. That's it. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your free benefits check now and get started with US Med. Dexcom, Omnipod, Tandem, Freestyle. They've got all your favorites. Even that new eyelet pump. Check them out now at usmed.com/juicebox or by calling 888-721-1514. There are links in the show notes of your podcast player and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to US Med and to all of the sponsors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
It is. I'm going to take a sip of water really quick.
Yeah. Hey, listen, while you're sipping water, I'm going to send you something through the messenger. That's who I imagine you look like. So for people listening, I was imagining
she's pretty.
Pamela Adlon. I know her as an adult from Californication, and it didn't even occur to me that the girl from Californication was the little girl from Facts of Life, but it is. It's the same person. Anyway, she talks like you, in my estimation or my memory, which then made me think of what she looked like, and that's why I described you. It's just bizarre that you actually fit relatively that description.
Yeah, I'm not as petite, but yeah, that's very similar.
I'm not as petite. Cool. She's an actress. She's not allowed to eat. I mean, fair is fair. Also, that lady's 57 right now, so I don't know what she actually looks like right now. I'm going to type. Yeah, I'll find out. Anyway, that's who I was thinking of. And apparently made a crazy living, if you go to her IMDb page, doing voiceover work and cartoon stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, you're working too hard. You could be voicing a cartoon.
Hey, maybe being on your podcast will get my voice out there.
Can you imagine if she finds out about this? She's like, why was I mentioned on a diabetes podcast? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh, too funny.
I'm not kidding you, though. She works consistently in animation. She is probably shoveling money into her bank account. I'll be damned. Why are we working so hard here? Sarah,
I know.
Seriously. All right. So now we're at the hospital. I'm going to fast forward you a little bit, right? So we're at the hospital. Everything, happens the way it happens. I imagine you guys get home. What's your management like at home?
So I want to mention that at the hospital, we had an incredible team who reminded us over and over again that there's more to it than what we're going to be learning.
Okay.
And that things are going to be fluid and that they're going to change, and that the next time that we see them, we will know more about diabetes than they do. So I'm thankful that we ended up where we ended up, even though it was the wrong hospital and the wrong pediatric wing and NICU. But since then, our pediatrician has actually had another type 1 onset, and she sent them there instead of to OHSU like she had intended to send us originally.
Interesting. Well, you ended up in the right place then.
Yes, exactly.
Good.
So we came home, we were MDI, we were finger sticking. Our don't die advice was to bolus her after she ate. We were supposed to carb count, give it to her, and then allow her to eat for 30 minutes. And then once she was either finished, if she finished sooner than 30 minutes, then we could bolus her. But if she was still kind of munching, she could munch for a full 30 minutes. And then after that, we would remove any additional carbs and bolus her for what we estimated that she actually ate.
So every meal was a 300 blood sugar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would bet, right? Okay.
At least, yeah. I was actually reviewing my chart notes prior to the meeting to kind of see where we were then. Mm-hmm. And it was like I was constantly calling the hospital and telling them that she was like 366 and not coming down. And the advice was pretty regularly, well, don't correct until the 4 hours has passed and give the insulin its chance. And by bolusing after the meal, we weren't giving the insulin its chance at all. We were giving the food and the carbs such a head start that there was no catching up.
Right.
We didn't have a Dexcom. We had a 1-month follow-up that in January, we went to back to the office in Portland in person, and they gave us a sample Dexcom and transmitter. So we got a little peek into what was happening, but only for 10 days because we didn't know what a restart was at the time. I got to see what was happening with our blood sugars and how crazy roller coaster they were, because they told us that we could see patterns on paper, but I'm not that kind of a visual person, and I just couldn't see it until it was on the Dexcom, and then it was like, whoa, my goodness. I had been on different diabetes groups on social media, and I started seeing conversations about pre-bolusing and the insulin action time and all of those things. So we started dosing half of what we were giving her before she ate. And I don't know that we were really giving it enough time, but we were still dosing her before, and then we were dosing her after. And I remember this conversation with one of the mail-in medical supply offices.
Yeah.
And I told them that we were doing between 10 and 12 injections a day. And he was just like, wow, that's a lot for a little one. And it was just like a punch in the gut. Because I didn't want to, but it's what she needed.
So you have this process that you go through where you're like, this is what you guys told us. Here's what we're figuring out by listening to other people. And that, of course, requires more injections. I do not feel good about poking my 2-year-old this many times. And then you get better and better results. And then the response from the doctor is, wow, you're jabbing her a lot.
Well, he wasn't a doctor. He was just the medical supply customer service dude.
Yep.
But yeah, that was exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. And then that hits you how? Like guilt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine. Were you able to push past that, or did you stop injecting as much? Did it push you off of it?
No, not at all. I was like, well, she needs what she needs, and her health is my priority, not your opinion. So
yeah. Or how badly I feel when I'm stabbing a 2-year-old, because I tell you what, I firmly remember what that felt like, and it's just not fun. Like, like you're with little legs and you grab them with your hand, and then you kind of have to hold them still, and you're pinching, and they're like, get away. And man, it's just terrible. I've told that story before, but I can remember running after Arden with a needle in my teeth.
Yeah. That's how it was with Lantus. She did not want the Lantus shot. She knew that one was going to feel different. Mm-hmm. And she would fight us on that one. The meal injections, she adapted too quickly. And she learned how to count to 10 so fast because we were counting to 10 every time we gave her an injection.
Should have started talking about, I don't know, something bigger,
I know.
Quantum physics or something.
Oh, she is so smart already. But if I had that kind of mental capacity, for sure.
Yeah, listen, you still think it's a good idea to drive that far to work. So, you're not learning at all.
I'm learning from you. Come on.
Hey, listen, meanwhile, what I should really be saying is you should all find jobs that are farther away from your home so that you can listen to my podcast more, because that would make me more successful. That I want more than anything. No, seriously. What I want is for you guys to be happy. This is going to be weird. Arden's calling in. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Haven't done this in a while. FaceTime. She may have just finished her. Do you have more than an hour, by the way, if we go over?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, hold on a second. Let's see what happens here. Hey, you're going to be on the podcast. Is that okay?
Wait, I don't know if you want to put this on the podcast.
You don't want this to be on the podcast?
Wait, just listen to this real quick.
Okay, well, let Sierra hear, but I'll have Rob bleep it out, okay?
Okay, I don't care. So I like literally slept in because I haven't slept for like 2 days, and I wake up and I'm like, let me check my emails because mom said there's a package for me, and I'm like looking. And do you remember a couple days ago how I told you they sent out this survey and I filled the survey out and I just like it on the school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so apparently with all the surveys that the school does too, like you can like win, like you like win a prize if like your name is picked in a raffle. And I fucking I won a projector.
Seriously?
Yeah, I just got an email about it, and the girl in charge texted me, "Good afternoon, your survey response was chosen as last week's prize winner. You can pick up your projector from Bradley Hall. It's ready whenever you are. Front desk will have it, blah, blah, blah."
Nice. So do you think they're trying to pay you off?
I don't know, but the survey, I was like, terrible, 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 probably worse, terrible. And I just won a projector from the school. Maybe I should start filling out terrible surveys every time they send them out.
Well, listen, either they gave you the projector to try to shut you up or they appreciated your honesty. One way or the other, you got a new projector.
Oh, that's so funny.
Well, good for you. Do you have any classes left or you just have to do the thing today?
What thing?
Don't you have to do a presentation?
Yeah, that's my only class that's left. I have that at 5, but I have to go like a half hour before because we have to like practice or something. But I'm gonna start cleaning up my room right now.
Okay. I set a higher target for you overnight, but it's over now, just so you know. Okay. All right. Well, I love you. Congratulations on your new projector. Call me later when you get it so I can say it.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So in case any of you are wondering if that's my daughter or not, by the way, Rob, you can leave all that in. She doesn't care that she won the projector. She loves the funny part of it where she was in the survey and yet she won the projector. It's hilarious. All right, Sierra, I'm sorry about that. Could you hear that, by the way?
I could, yes.
Okay.
It reminded me of like when you give a 1-star review on Google and the company comes back and is like, wait, we'll give you this if you change your review.
Would you like a coupon?
Yep.
They were like, someone give that girl a projector. She was way too articulate in this response. She read to us what she wrote, and it was not good about one specific instructor, really.
You have to be honest or they don't know that they need to change it.
Sarah, listen, every person who's sent a kid through college knows there is a semester or a class where you're thinking to yourself, I just paid an obscene amount of money for my kid to Google and YouTube things.
I took a class at a local community college and I felt like I wasted my time because of how many personal stories he told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was just a waste of time and a waste of money.
During COVID, the teaching went down so significantly at my son's school that I called to complain. And the dean actually said to me on the phone, yeah, the quality of the education right now is not as good, but you'll still have the diploma when it's over and you can trade off that.
Oh my gosh.
Like he literally said, and trade off that. It's a good school. Use our name, get a job. I'm like, won't he need to know how to like actually do the thing? And they were like, COVID.
Oh my
I was like,
gosh.
I love how COVID was an answer for everything. Like, we don't really have to educate you. COVID, keep paying. COVID. I'm like, okay. All right, listen. So the kid's getting the MDI treatment. How does she manage now?
Now she's Omnipod 5 and G6.
Okay. Now,
and her last A1C was 6.6.
Oh, good for you with a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's hard.
No kidding. Seriously, good job. What kind of glucagon do you carry?
Now we have is it Baqsimi?
Yeah, Baqsimi. I like when people call it Baqsquimmy.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one.
I had to like stare at the box and get the letters in the right order.
So this is the nasal glucagon with the powder.
And we just switched to that because she is starting kindergarten in the fall and we want her to have the easiest option on her.
Okay.
We also have the Gvoke HypoPen now because of you. When we had is this a good time to transition into the glucagon story?
Sarah, are you producing? Don't worry. I got you. Keep going.
She was diagnosed New Year's Eve. And then on February 1st, so just barely a month, we had the Dexcom. It was screaming that she was over 300. I think our settings were to repeat the high alarm every 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it was just like overwhelming how much it was screaming. So I decided to give her a correction dose. which we had been very specifically told not to give nighttime corrections because they were worried that she would go low at night and that we would be sleeping and wouldn't catch it. Because prior to getting the Dexcom sample, we were still in the waking up at 3 a.m., checking her blood sugar and going back to sleep.
Right.
Some nights we would do more finger sticks just to, like if it was a higher activity day, we would keep better track. I opted to give her a correction, and she was at 300 when I gave her the correction, and I gave her a unit, which was actually less than what our correction factor was. I should have given her a unit and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then we laid down, and I don't sleep when she's not in range. I'll lay down, but I can't turn off. So I was,
I understand. Yeah.
So I was watching the Dexcom, watching, and she's sleeping. At some point, the low started alarming. And so we tried to wake her up, and we tried to give her carbs, and she just wasn't responding because she was at that point in her sleep where you just couldn't get her out of it. And so we were trying to wake her up. We were sitting her up. We were moving her around, just doing anything that we could to try to get her to be coherent.
Yeah.
And we were putting her Juicebox straw in her mouth and trying to get her to drink it, and she just wouldn't. And she got down to 46, and I had called the on-call endo at that point. Well, prior to that point, their sense of urgency in the situation just wasn't there because it was an emergency in our living room.
Yeah.
We were panicking and trying to get her to wake up, and she was crying and just upset. And they were just like, okay, why'd you do what you did?
Not now. That's not what we're talking about now.
Exactly. And at the time, we had the red case Lilly, you mix it before you inject it, glucagon. They were just like, go ahead and give her the glucagon. And I'm in full panic. And I have to mention that I have been through incident command training through work. And
didn't help you that day?
No. Training is great until you're in it and it's your child and it's an emergency.
And that needle looks like it'll go halfway into her leg. You know what I mean? It's a big needle. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. So they told me to mix it. And so I did. And then she tells me to only inject half of it because she's so small.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where my brain was other than fight or flight mode. But I mixed the glucagon. I pulled it into the syringe. And then I sprayed half of the glucagon mixture all over our living room.
Wait, on an old TV show?
Yeah.
This is your big moment. You're like, I'm on Grey's Anatomy right now.
I know. Yeah. So that was how I got the syringe to only have half of the glucagon in it.
I'm glad you find that as funny as I do, by the way. It's a hilarious visual. You're like, hold on. Okay, there we go. Did you tap it too? I bet you tapped it.
I don't remember that detail, but yeah. So then I injected the remaining half, and the woman on the phone tells me to put the remainder in the fridge in case we need it later. And I'm like,
that's gone.
I don't have any more.
I also yelled clear before I did it, and I don't know why.
That needle, though, I remember the resistance that she had in her thigh to that needle compared to the insulin injection needles. It was just so different and so big. And they warned us that it was going to burn. And so she's screaming because the injection is so different. And then the solution is painful.
Right.
But it did its job, and her blood sugar came up, and she ended up back in the 300s. We had another glucagon kit on hand. So it wasn't like we were completely out.
Right.
But we just didn't have the open one anymore. And
I can try to get it off the floor, but I think it's also on the sofa. So
Yeah, it was everywhere.
By the way, the most on-brand thing you've said this whole time is my partner, Cliff. I was like, of course he's your partner. And like, just the Oregon screaming from you, Sarah. But what was the postmortem like when you guys talked about it?
We've talked about it a few times, and we were both just like in so much fight or flight that neither one of us really knew what to do. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to console her and like get her to wake up and get her to drink juice while I'm on the phone with the on-call endo, not getting the response that I'm expecting. We actually didn't even call an ambulance after we injected the glucagon, which was part of our training, was glucagon ambulance. And then
did you do glucagon mushrooms? I might have done that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ. Let's go commune in the woods. This is weird.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That probably would have been what I needed at the time.
Well, listen, at this point, I think there's some major institutions that you can get rid of this PTSD with mushrooms at.
They just opened.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to be on every block in Oregon. Don't you worry.
It's going to be just like the dispensaries. Yeah. Every half block there.
Did your dad ever yell at you? Come on in and get high. We'll get rid of it. There's a therapist here. Meet Bill.
He'll sit in the room with you and
he's
make sure you have
talk
a good
you through
vibe.
Your trauma. Don't worry. Bill looks high too. No, he's not. It's fine. Okay. That's terrible. Listen, I have been through a glucagon incident twice.
I have listened to them and they have made me cry.
Yeah, no, I bet you they do. They make me cry when I think about them. We've never actually used it though, which is always the irony of it. It's like we've always kind of gotten out of it right before.
Yeah.
But we would have used it the first time, but I couldn't even figure out how to put the Lilly needle together.
It's so complicated.
It's not though, but it is when somebody's screaming at you, your kid's going to die. That's different. You know what I mean?
So we had gone through training both of our moms how to use the glucagon. And we're like, it's really simple. You just follow these instructions on the case. It's not simple in the moment at all.
Tell me about your professional training for stuff. What were you saying earlier?
We have gone through incident command training. I'm first responder, CPR certified through work. Mm-hmm. When my career was at the Oregon Caves, we would occasionally have cave emergencies that we would need to respond to. Yep. And being in a cave environment, underground, and also in a very remote area with limited services, we needed to know how to respond in those emergency situations. You should have thrown her
in a cave while it was happening. It might have helped you.
Yeah, put me at work and I've got my head on straight.
Hey, listen, to commiserate with you for a second, I have been in burning buildings. I have seen and worked around dead bodies. I've seen a live woman after a car accident folded in half under the dashboard of a car that we had to extricate her from. And when my kid had a seizure, I couldn't figure out how to put that thing together either.
It's such a different situation. Yeah. It's when it's not somebody who's connected to you, I can keep my head on straight and I can stay calm and I can call the shots. Mm. But when it's in my living room at midnight with a screaming 2-year-old, that's my screaming 2-year-old.
Yeah.
No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to imagine like the president of the United States can't get Netflix to work. You know what I mean? Like it's probably like 3 hours earlier they were ordering an airstrike on something, and now they're like, I can't find this new show on Netflix. like that's how I felt. Like I was like, because when it was over, I'm like, that's not who I am. Like,
yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
my wife was super focused, so she was good. You know, actually, had she had 4 hands, I'm assuming we would have got the glucagon into her.
I wonder if Cliff had been in charge of it, if he would have not sprayed it across the room. Probably.
What a ridiculous sight. Anyway, she was okay afterwards? You didn't even go to the hospital. Everything was fine, right?
No, we didn't go to the hospital. She had some stomach ache from it.
Yeah.
She didn't actually vomit afterwards. What they didn't tell us about was, and I haven't listened to all of your recordings.
What the?
I've listened to a lot.
Yeah, you're done.
I'm
We're
working
done now.
on it. I'm
it's
chipping
over.
away.
Goodbye.
Come on. But I haven't heard anybody else mention this either, is the fact that the glucagon can deplete your liver from its glucose stores.
Right.
And so there were follow-up lows for like the next 2 days.
Oh.
We were constantly, like, we got to a point where our endo told us not to bolus for meals. And we reduced our Lantus because her body was just storing the glucose instead of her blood sugars becoming a roller coaster.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I believe this is mentioned in episode 789, important things to know about Chivo Kypopen, and probably in the remastered pro tip 1014 glucagon and low BGs. But yeah, like, so the stuff in the needle is not the stuff that makes your blood sugar go up. It's the stuff that makes your liver go, oh, you need glucagon? Here, and take it. Like, it releases it from your liver. And as a matter of fact, you can maybe get away with shooting glucagon twice in an emergency, but there's going to be diminishing returns as you go forward.
Right. And that's, they did kind of tell us that, like, once you use glucagon, you can't exactly use it again on such a small person.
So small. I mean, how big could her liver be? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, she was just such a tiny little thing then. She still is. The follow-up after that was just like low after low after low. And we had to change our insulin to carb ratios. We had to change everything and just go back to bolusing after the meal because the glucose just wasn't there for the insulin to combat anymore in that time frame.
The liver size of a human female at 2 years old can vary, but on average typically weighs 300 grams. The dimensions of the liver in a young child can be roughly 6 to 8 centimeters in length. How about that? Isn't that crazy? All
that
this stuff.
Is crazy.
Yeah, by the way, ChatGPT 4.0, amazing. I don't know if it's going to take over the world or not, but until it does, I love it. If it goes to Skynet later, I'll be like, I was wrong. But for right now... For right now, it's legit. Do you think it'll play this recording as it laughs later as it's crushing our skulls with its metal feet? Probably not.
I hope not if it's crushing us.
It'll be like, I remember when this guy on a podcast said this, and it'll just play it outside. Anyway, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry you went through all that. It sounds like, believe it or not, I feel like you handled it really well. I mean, we went to the hospital after the first seizure when she was 2. We felt like we didn't need to.
Yeah.
But we gave in to the like, well, they told us to, and we did it. And then the next 2 hours were like, we sat in the hospital going like, why are we here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so even the people in the hospital were like, you probably didn't have to come. We're like, well, great.
Right.
Thanks.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
We have this crappy meter and these needles. This is all we have.
Oh, gosh.
Like, we don't know what we're doing. You know what I mean? It was 2006. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Point is, I wish we didn't go in that scenario, and I can see where you would, can I ask, I know she's only 2, so this is why I ask, was she altered in any other way in the days after? Did you notice her, like, anything different about her personality?
Nothing that stands out. I just remember that she wasn't her. Okay, I guess I could take that back and say that she wasn't herself at following up, but nothing that was like extreme. I think it was more like she was recovering from a sickness. Yeah,
like run down or beat up or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Arden was really weird after her last one for a couple days, like melancholy almost. And I never knew if it was psychological or if it was physical or a mix of it.
Right.
But at 17, 18 years old, she slept in our bed for like 3 nights afterwards.
I don't blame her.
Yeah. No.
That's where I would want Harper. And prior to diagnosis, she was learning how to sleep in her own bed. And then I just got her back in her own bed like last month.
Oh, you put her like in a nest in your room?
Yeah, till she started kicking me, and now no.
Listen, kid, this is all well and good, but now I've got a bruise, so you've got to go. I just imagine you building an eagle's nest in the corner of your room in your treehouse that I imagine you live in. Do you live in a treehouse?
There are some amazing tree houses in this state.
What I love about the upper Northwest is that when you make up ridiculous stuff, somebody goes, no, that's here. We have that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Also, I have to take a couple swings at you so the people. So try again. Can you be more ridiculous? I don't know. California's giving alcohol to like homeless people now, so I don't know what's going on. I have to hit you guys once in a while so the Canadians feel good about how I talk to them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still sure they have pet
I can
penguins
take it.
and they just don't want to tell us. You can take it? Oh, that's excellent. Good for you. Yeah. You seem like one of those tough hippies, not like the sensitive ones.
Oh.
People are like, there aren't just two kinds of people. And I'm like, in my head, there are.
Yep. It's simpler that way.
Yeah. And in Canada, people have pet penguins. And if you don't like it, don't listen to the podcast. I don't know what to tell you. I also know there are no penguins in Canada. But go ahead. What?
I would have a pet penguin if I was allowed to.
They smell, but who wouldn't?
I mean, you just have to take care of it, right?
Jesus Christ. I can't. My God, my dog is so old. I'm like, is this over yet, buddy? Like, are we done? Like, you get up in the morning, he's like, hey, and I'm like, one more time? All right, let's do it again. Yep. Jesus Christ. Today, his leg just feels like it's going to fall off him. And like, listen, I want to be clear. It's horrifying. It's so sad. But he is like over 16 years old.
Wow.
And you're just like, man, it's all right. Like, he's completely like cataract over. He's incontinent. He's now his hip. And I'm just like, you look at him, you want to be like, dude, you gotta just give up. Like, it's over. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like,
just go lay in your doggy bed and go to sleep, buddy.
It's the worst thing in the world because it's gonna be me, Sarah. It's gonna be me when the time comes. Someone's gonna look at me and say, you got to do it, and then I'm gonna be the one crying at the veterinarian's office and talking to him and like, you know what I mean?
Yep. I had a childhood dog who, she lived to be about 16 years old. And it got to a point where it was like, okay, her quality of life isn't there anymore. So we are lucky enough to have a local veterinarian that will come to your home and do it instead of you having to go into the office.
It's the worst thing. Like, and I mean, I don't mean to make light of it because I'm certainly not, but it's just like, I don't know when to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's such a hard decision to make. And it really sucks when you are the one who has to make that decision and make that phone call and set the appointment. It's all just awful. Yeah. I hate it all. And
I want to take it all. I don't want it to be my wife. I don't want her to have to live with it. Like, I want it to be me. Like, you know what I mean? But I like, that's big picture thinking, like small picture thinking. I just look at them like, if you could just close your eyes, that'd be great. You know, because
so peacefully.
Yeah, please. Meanwhile, Arden comes home in like 3 or 4 more days and she knows how bad he is. And she's just like, is Indy going to be okay till I get home? And we're like, yeah, sure. It's going to be fine. You know, so we're trying really hard to get him to her return, which is that's even another strange thing. Like, I don't know why people have kids because you have to think about all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, is it better for the dog to be put to sleep when she's not here or when she is here? Or like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just going to work out the way it works out, I guess. I don't know why we got to that off of, because pet penguins. Yeah, if the penguin was going to die, I'd be like, the penguin died. I think I think it would be easier.
I would be so heartbroken. I love penguins.
How do you love penguins? Have you ever seen a penguin?
So cute. They're so awkward on land. And then they are just like, so smooth in the water and they can fly. They just have to be underwater.
I know. Otters are cool too.
Otters are really cool.
Yeah. I don't know. That's not what we're talking about though, but otters are fascinating to watch, like swim and pop out of the water and apparently they're very nasty animals.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have river otters here. I've seen them a few times in the wild.
Yeah. They're apparently not pleasant.
Oh, well, I like them.
Beautiful to watch. Beautiful to watch. Hard to interact with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just described my wife. I can't wait to get a review about that one. More misogyny from this guy. Says his wife's like a river otter. Every once in a while, Sarah, about every 6 months, I get somebody who can't hear sarcasm, and then I get a review from them. They always by the way, those always make me laugh the most. I'm like, oh, wow, you misunderstood that significantly. That's crazy, but whatever. Are we done talking about this? Do you have any other details that I have not drawn from you?
Since that incident, we learned how to get her to drink juice while she's sleeping instead of having to wake her up and force her into being coherent. She has had severe lows since, not many, but one time she was awake and coherent, and she just told me that she felt weak and shaky. And so we did a finger stick and she was at 26.
Wow.
And we were able to give her some marshmallows and some juice boxes. And she was able to rebound on that one on her own. And looking back on the glucagon situation, I don't think that we necessarily needed it. I think we were just so new and so panicked that we just took the don't die advice and did what we could.
Yeah.
It was definitely traumatic, but I look back on it now and I laugh. And I just was recently listening and I heard that Not Scared, Prepared episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. So like,
good.
As we move in and transition into her riding a school bus and being taken care of by school staff, that's my plan, is to be prepared and not be scared.
Good for you. Oh, I think it's probably the only way to live, honestly. Yeah. And honestly, even with this conversation, I don't know another way to talk about this except joke through it and make stupid. Like if I actually had you come on here and tell like a somber story about this, like, first of all, I don't think anybody would listen to it. And secondly, if they listened to it, when they got to the end, they'd feel like, throwing themselves in front of a bus. Like, I don't want people to feel that way. Like, I want them to know, like, this could happen and you need to be ready. And here's how it works. You'll probably be fine. Like, get in there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and try not to think about it every day, because you can't live like that either.
You can't.
Yeah. That's why I appreciate when people share these stories. Seriously. Like, like I keep doing them whenever somebody offers one, just because I think that, it's important to be knowledgeable and not scared. But it's also important to be honest about what it's like. And in the moment, it's terrifying.
It is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like, you think someone's dying in front of you and you feel like you have a split second to change it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And a simple decision in that moment could take you the wrong direction. It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, no, we'll make it. I don't need this. And that's why I can't begrudge you shooting it and then later saying, like, oh, we probably didn't need to do that. I say to that, oh, well, like, better safe than sorry in that situation for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I've talked about this on a couple of others, but, I did this in-person talk one time. There's like 300-400 people there. They were adults who either had diabetes or were the spouse of somebody with type 1. And they were more newly diagnosed, some of them, but not all of them. And when I brought up glucagon, no one knew what it was. Like, they didn't know what it was. They didn't have it in their house. They wouldn't know how to use it if they had it. Like, they were like, wait, what? Some people were like, what happens if your blood sugar gets too low? Like, they didn't even know. And I think like it's incumbent upon somebody to talk about it once in a while, so.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing this all the way from like whatever mountaintop you're on right now.
I'm on a volcano.
Are you really?
I am.
I imagine you make $25,000 a year and you're living off of breadcrumbs. Is that true? Or like, do people
no.
like, no, good. You're being paid reasonably?
I'm being paid. I wouldn't drive 2.5 hours if it wasn't worth it.
Is it one of those jobs nobody else wants, so they have to pay you more?
No.
No? Okay.
It's a great association. We fund the education in science here.
Nice.
I find a lot of pride and joy in it. And I've always loved to be outside. So to get to be paid to be in a situation where I get to be surrounded by beautiful wilderness, I couldn't ask for a better situation.
I hope your end doesn't come at the hands of a bear. But other than that, that's really nice.
Okay. Yeah. So before you let me go.
Oh, you got a bear story?
I guess it was 2 winters ago. It was the first snowfall of the winter. And I was the first person at the office at Oregon Caves where I was working at the time. And I decided that I was going to go on a solo hike. It's just a 1 mile loop up and over the cave. Mm-hmm. But I found bear tracks in the snow and I started to follow them. And then my sense of self-awareness popped up and I realized that I didn't want to die by the paws of a bear. And I turned around and went back.
What in the hell made you not go the opposite way, the paws of the bear?
I wanted to see a really clear print in the snow. Like they were just kind of like kicked around. Like it had come onto the trail and turned around. So the prints weren't like that crystal clear paws and toes kind of look. So I started following them initially to get a picture of a better paw print.
You were doing this for a photo for Instagram?
I'm not even on Instagram. It was just for my own personal thing.
Just for yourself? How long did you track the bear before you thought to yourself, oh, I probably shouldn't track a bear?
it was probably within like 10 feet of the trail. And that's when I was like, I don't want to actually die today. It was just a black bear, but still.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be comforting when it was slicing your throat open. Oh, look, it's only a black bear.
I could take a black bear.
Oh, I'll just punch him in the groin. Like it'll be like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. He'll probably run away. Listen, as I make fun of you, I've told this story on the podcast before, but I had somebody do something to me in traffic once when I was young and I was on a motorcycle. And I got so mad that I pulled off this side of the road and through traffic went after the person. Like, I don't know what I was thinking I was going to do.
Yeah.
They almost killed me and they did it on purpose. And when I was maybe 2 widths of a car away, the driver disappeared and then popped back up from their glove compartment and pointed a Glock at me.
Oh my gosh.
And I still took more steps after I realized it was a gun.
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time. Like, why didn't I just stop? Like, what is it?
Body was just going and your brain was like, stop.
And by the way, I'm not like, I don't know. I was only going to yell at him. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, listen, I know myself. I physically couldn't manhandle a person to begin with. Like I wasn't like, I just wanted to be like, my God, what are you doing? You almost killed me. And it was crazy what I was doing. Make no mistake. It was also the early 90s. You were allowed to be crazy then. It didn't really matter. There's no rules like there is now. Like right now, they'd be like, he's insane. Put him down. I'm like, that's how we all acted in the 80s, just so you know. And so it wasn't just me. No. But yeah, I saw that gun and I was like, my brain registered gun, like enough that I knew what kind of a gun it was.
Yeah.
And I kept going forward. And then I went, and then my conscience hit me and I put my hands up and I went, sorry. And I just backed away.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like that's what happened to you when you realized I shouldn't be tracking a bear. You went like
that. Yeah.
Ooh, I gotta go. What am I doing?
This is not a smart decision. Abort.
I'm an idiot.
Pretty much. Yep.
No wonder I couldn't figure out that glucagon. Jesus God, I'm a moron. Sarah, you and I could have a podcast together. You're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll never have you back on. No, I'm just kidding. I try not to repeat guests. That's all I meant.
Yeah.
You were
I understand.
really lovely, and I appreciate you doing this and retelling what I'm sure is a difficult story to help people. So thank you very much. It's sincerely is very kind of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Hold on 1 second for me. The conversation you just enjoyed was brought to you by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get started today and get your supplies from US Med. Are you tired of getting a rash from your CGM adhesive? Give the Eversense 365 a try. Eversensecgm.com/juicebox. Beautiful silicone that they use. It changes every day. It keeps it fresh. Not only that, you only have to change the sensor once a year. So, I mean, that's better. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. Are you starting to see patterns, but you can't quite make sense of them? You're like, oh, if I bolus here, this happens, but I don't know what to do. Should I put in a little less, a little more? If you're starting to have those thoughts, if you're starting to think, this isn't going the way the doctor said it would, I think I see something here, but I can't be sure. Once you're having those thoughts, you're ready for the Diabetes Pro Tip series from the Juicebox Podcast. It begins at episode 1000. You can also find it at juiceboxpodcast.com up in the menu. And you can find a list in the private Facebook group. Just check right under the featured tab at the top. It'll show you lists of a ton of stuff, including the Pro Tip series, which runs from episode 1000 to 1025. I can't thank you enough for listening. Please make sure you're subscribed or following in your audio app. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.